Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here in person, and for those of you joining us online. We are live here at the Edmonton Global Stage at the 2025 Canadian Hydrogen Convention, and it's great to have you all here with us. This session is Scaling Safely, Building Canada's Hydrogen Future with Confidence. I'm here with Brian, Nirmal, and Agatha, and it's such a pleasure to have you all. And Nirmal, I know you have some news, so we're going to start with your introductions and your news.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Nirmal Gnanapragasam. I'm a principal scientist with Canadian Nuclear Labs, so CNL. So CNL has been working on a national initiative for the last couple of years. It's called Canadian Hydrogen Safety Center. So it's a not-for-profit company. We recently incorporated it in Canada, and we are going to help industries, both old and new, handling hydrogen, to help them look at problems that are both apparent and non-apparent. So this is again coming from a long history of hydrogen safety we have established within the nuclear industry. Today is sort of the official launch or announcement of the center being ready, and we will start working with members and other stakeholders in the coming days and weeks. Just a quick sort of snapshot on what the center is. So the center will look at delivering safety solutions for safety problems. So the solutions could be as simple as data for advancing a standard, or it could be a protocol, it could be a guide, or it could be as intense as developing, again, new safety devices or sensors. But if you look at the objectives there, so one of the first ones is what we learned in the nuclear industry. So how do you forecast problems before they happen? And the current hydrogen industry, especially with the growth and a lot of new players, we want them to take a step back, look at what they are doing, and understand the whole ecosystem where they're handling the hydrogen, and forecast any issues outside design, outside normal operations, and make sure that they have the necessary layers needed for protection. So we are going to do that by coordinating. So the center itself will not do any work. So it's a small center, but we will coordinate through members and stakeholders all the activities needed. So one of the key supports will be in developing, advancing, and implementation of codes, standards, and regulations. So we'll be working closely with standards developers, regulators in each province as well as nationally. And we'll also have access to a lot of unique research facilities for hydrogen, where we can do testing of these solutions, scaling of these new devices for hydrogen. So again, in short, the purpose of the center is to address safety problems, working with the industry, working with the developers, and lead actions that will establish safety levels that are sort of more apparent as well as non-apparent. And we also will help plan strategically for the future of or future growth of the hydrogen industry with a strong safety base. So the corporate structure is, again, if you're familiar with the not-for-profit, it's very similar. We'll have two layers of members, governing and supporting members. The governing members are people with problems. Supporting members will solve those problems, and we will deliver all the results and outcomes through projects. So I'll stop there. But yeah, it's an exciting sort of initiative, and we wish the industry sort of comes to us and talks to us. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Nirmal. That's really exciting. Really appreciate that you were able to and interested in sharing that news with us here on the Edmonton Global Stage too. So thank you so much for that. We look forward to hearing more about that development.
Yep.
Now I'd like to go into some more introductions and move into a little bit of a Q&A style panel discussion. Agatha, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Agatha Ojimelukwe, and I'm the Dean of the School of Energy and Natural Resources at the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. NAIT is one of the largest polytechnics in Canada. We currently have about 34,000 students go through our polytechnic every year, and we are super proud to be the backbone of talent for Alberta and for Canada, supporting the trades and technologists, making sure that our buildings are powered, making sure that our industries are built and operating properly, making sure that our transportation sector is thriving. And so we're super excited to be supporting the energy transition and the development of hydrogen training and micro-credentials to support the sector, and also building the facilities that will support the hydrogen ecosystem here in Canada. So that's me.
Thank you so much, and also thank you so much for the work you're doing to upskill our hydrogen workforce. A lot of that acceleration of the hydrogen economy really can't be done without the training needed, so it's a very, very vital part of the supply chain and the value chain. Brian, can you please tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're working on?
Yes, thanks for the invitation for being here. My name is Brian Wagg. I'm the Director of Business Development at C-FER. C-FER is a subsidiary of Alberta Innovates, and we provide engineering and testing services to the energy industry and other industries as well. We operate 2 large-scale testing labs here in Edmonton, and we've been helping the energy industry transform over many, many years. As new technologies come along, we help prove them out and de-risk them before they go to the field. And now hydrogen and actually CO2, very related to that, are sort of the latest things to be challenging the industry, and we are helping to do those tests to validate those technologies with support from Alberta Innovates and their Hydrogen Centre of Excellence, and also through Prairies Canada that's been funding some of the work.
I just have a question for you. It's not in my notes, though, so if you can't answer, that's totally okay. But I am curious to know if there's any projects right now that you're working on, maybe with Hydrogen Centre of Excellence, that you're really excited to tell us about.
Yes. There's quite a bit going on, actually. Primarily what we're looking at is, can you use existing infrastructure to transport and store hydrogen? So looking at pipelines, and can you convert natural gas pipelines to hydrogen, and what are the implications of that from a maintenance and safety standpoint? And similarly for underground storage wells, can you use existing salt caverns or other underground storage to store products such as blended hydrogen with natural gas? The challenge is that to adopt hydrogen quickly and have it a big impact on the industry, you have to use existing infrastructure. There's not time to build all new pipeline system and all new underground storage facilities. So to have hydrogen have that impact in any kind of reasonable time frame, we're going to have to use that existing infrastructure.
That makes sense. So it's kind of relying on what Alberta already has, which would be coming from like traditional oil and gas or traditional energy and those kinds of different logistical structures.
It is, and it's not just here in Canada. The work we're doing is we're working with Japan, we're working with France, with the Netherlands, the US. So everybody's actually coming here to learn about this infrastructure testing, because we've got unique facilities. And that's where Nirmal stuff ties in as well, is taking the experience with Canada Nuclear Labs and their experience with hydrogen in the past, and building on that and telling everybody else about it.
Great, thanks. I appreciate the context. Okay, so now I'll start with my first question. Canada is emerging as a leader in hydrogen safety. And my question is, what do you think is setting us apart, Canada, or even the Edmonton region, on the global stage? And Agatha, I'd like to start with you.
I think we already started talking about some of those things that set us apart, and I think the strength and resilience of our oil and gas sector pretty much gives us a huge advantage in taking the lead when it comes to hydrogen. So I know that about 2.4 million tons of hydrogen is currently being produced in Alberta, and Alberta is the largest producer of hydrogen in Canada, and we leverage the oil and gas sector to be able to do that now. So from a training perspective, NAIT provides the operators, the power engineers who are able to handle the oil and gas sector, and we have leveraged that to be able to do hydrogen up to this point. We also have one of the highest safety standards when it comes to operating the oil and gas sector across the world, and that's something that people don't know. It is part of our advantage. I was doing some research online, and I found that Wikipedia has like a record of some major explosions that have happened across the world. Zero of that has happened in Alberta, and a province that is powered by the oil and gas sector. So we have done a great job of operating the oil and gas sector safely. It does give us an advantage. That's why we're able to do it with hydrogen. I think where we need more of that the work that Nirmal is going to do is, as we begin to think about scaling hydrogen into new technologies in the transportation sector, in the heating and home heating sector, we would need to get a better understanding of what those safety considerations are and how we can implement them and scale. So, yeah.
Nirmal, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I think Agatha touched on it already. So Alberta, similar to Ontario, I mean, Ontario is more nuclear, there's a strong nuclear base. In Alberta, oil and gas industry has been handling hydrogen for decades safely within their fences. There's a lot of gas producers here. They know how to handle hydrogen. So the reason we are bringing the safety center is with all the other people trying to handle hydrogen outside those sophisticated fences. So this is where the hydrogen is now getting into newer applications. Again, starting with Edmonton hydrogen hub as well as Calgary hydrogen hub. So there are a lot of new projects being developed. So we want them to do the same emphasis on safety as the oil and gas industry, as the nuclear industry. So Canada has been a leader in safety in industrial and engineering sort of disciplines. So we want to maintain that and even advance that and innovate new ways of doing safety, because in the nuclear industry also went over safety, so that also costs you money. So one of the things we'll do in the safety center is work with the companies that are doing projects, say, here in the Edmonton region, learn from there and see how we can sort of introduce safety right from the design and not do an add-on.
Brian, do you have anything to add to this question?
Yeah, well, the Edmonton region in particular is very well suited to hydrogen development because we're already producing a lot of hydrogen. But to make hydrogen green, you have to be able to dispose of CO2. So we've got experience here. We've got some of the largest CO2 sequestration projects in the world here already. So we've got that experience. We've got the geology that can support that. We've got capacity to store millions of tons of CO2 safely. And again, we've been demonstrating that for many years already. And we've got a very large heavy industry base that can use hydrogen. So we've got the natural gas to produce hydrogen, we've got the capability to produce hydrogen, we've got the capability and experience to get rid of CO2, and we've got end users all here at large scale. So you don't find that really anywhere else in the world. Most have one or the other, but we've got the whole value chain built up here and experience working on all of those. And the energy industry, it really is a transformation that we're talking about. People talk about transition, but it's really a transformation of taking what's already here already and building on it, not starting over in any of these areas. So from the training, from the safety, and from the equipment side, it's all really here already, and it's some modifications to make it work. It's not starting from scratch in any of those aspects.
I feel like you read part of our website. I agree. Okay, I'd like to move into our next question, and for this one, I'd like to start with Nirmal. However, Agatha and Brian, I'd also love to hear what you have to say about this. So what safety-related innovations, initiatives, and partnerships do you see in the Edmonton region that the rest of the world should be paying attention to?
Right. So again, we have a leader already. Again, Brian, like C-FER Tech and Alberta Innovates, they are already doing hydrogen safety-related research and work. So that's why, I mean, they are also part of the safety center already. And we are also seeing a lot of hydrogen activities happening in Alberta and in and around Edmonton region. So the Edmonton region is already a leader in hydrogen projects for the country. So any lessons we learn from here will trigger innovation and safety. So for example, we're talking about blended hydrogen in pipelines. So are there detectors that can detect both gases individually and say which one is leaking or which one is not? So that's one example, but there are other what we call layers of protection where the innovation can happen. So there's plenty of work remaining to be done, but we are already starting with a very strong experience and industrial base here. So.
Perfect, thank you. And do either of you have anything you'd like to add?
Sure. So another example, a strong partnership that I can talk about is how we work together with the certifying organizations to to come up with those safety standards. So for example, a typical example is our power engineers in Canada or in Alberta. They are certified by ABSER. So for you to become a 4th, 3rd, or 5th class power engineer, you get certified by ABSER. Well, ABSER is working with NAIT through the Interprovincial Power Engineering Committee to determine what we teach in class. So because we are working with the Safety Association to embed safety into training, and that same association is certifying the power engineers who are working in the power plants, I think that partnership sets up our workforce for success. Because right from the classroom, they're learning all the things that they need to know to be able to operate those plants safely. And ABSER is in the room with us. And the people who are setting those exams up to certify them are in the room with us. So there's that collaboration, which is working not just with the certifying organizations, but the industry. So in those power engineering curriculum committees, we would have Air Products, Suncor, all the energy producers, the major energy producers who are open and willing to work together with NAIT would be in that room. And that's how we make sure that our power engineers are set up for success. And that's just one example. And then when we talk about like the hydrogen sector, as we are building micro-credentials, NAIT is not doing that on our own. We are working with the hydrogen producers. We are working with the Alberta Motor Transporter Association. We're working with diesel tech industries. We work closely with industry, and I think that partnership sets us up for success, not just as an institution, but sets up the province of Alberta. Our workforce is set up for success when we maintain those close ties and those close relationships with everyone involved in the ecosystem.
I'm hearing a lot of collaboration, which is really good, especially when you need that kind of alignment in order for safety to keep pace with what's happening in industry, right, and with training. So
Right.
I can imagine that there's a lot of complexities with that as well.
For sure, but the devil's in the details. When you can make it work, the partnerships are beautiful. The outcome is beautiful when you do make it work. And I think we found a way of making it work, and we should just continue to do that.
Brian?
Well, one of those consortiums is the Energy Connections Canada group. So that's pipeline operators with the supply chain companies. They've established the Energy Transition Hub to look at where those kind of training, those kinds of standards, what's needed. So it's going to complement what Nirmal's doing with the safety center, but it's going to look beyond just the safety aspects as well, looking at efficiency and other things. And that group is actually working with the CSA to upgrade standards and look at the existing standards and say, where do you have to insert and hydrogen and CO2 and other aspects of those standards. So industry is working very closely with CSA and with the supply chain to make sure that the standards and the best practices all reflect what's required for hydrogen.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so on to my next question. This one is for Nirmal. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more context and information as to your announcement. So with the launch of the Canadian Hydrogen Safety Centre, for the Edmonton region, what impact do you hope this will have? Not just locally, not just nationally, but internationally as well.
Right. I think, like Alberta is investing in hydrogen projects, like in different end-use, for hydrogen. So one of them is the heavy-duty transport. So for example, the hydrogen trucks or hydrogen rail by CPKC. So these projects will need the hydrogen infrastructure built. And one of the key infrastructures for hydrogen to happen is pipelines. So currently, again, blended pipelines or repurposing existing natural gas pipelines, going forward, hydrogen compatible pipelines. So in all of this, there are a lot of gaps, like codes and standards is one thing, but in terms of gadgets and detectors, but also trying to create an integrated safety system. So that's completely not there at the moment. So this is for large hydrogen handlers within their fence, they have it, but not when the pipeline crosses the fence or the hydrogen crosses the fence. So that's where, and you also need to think of the scale. So the safety center really helps when the industry scales up. So if you're transporting, 10 tons per day today, if it's going to be 1,000 tons per day, what are the implications? So what are the emergency response? So we'll look at it more from things that are like, so it's again, the difference is between planning and preparing. So we help the industry to be prepared for even the worst case, rather than just planning, which is for order. So thanks.
No surprises, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So my next question is for Brian. C-FER is doing some of the most advanced testing in the world for hydrogen infrastructure. How are these capabilities helping to position Canada as a reliable and safe place to invest?
The challenges here in Alberta are no different than they're seeing elsewhere, that they're looking at using existing infrastructure. Can they convert them? Europe in particular has their hydrogen backbone program, where they're looking at repurposing very large sections of pipelines for pure hydrogen. And they're going to see the same challenges as we have, is understanding those pipelines and how they're going to behave with hydrogen. So we're doing full-scale tests, again, looking at these existing pipelines and the defects that are on them, and how those defects might behave in the hydrogen environment. They might be acceptable in a natural gas pipeline, but how do we have to treat them? Do we have to treat them any differently if they're now exposed to hydrogen? So we've got large-scale testing facilities that aren't available very many other places in the world. Those other places are also very busy doing testing. So the world demand for this kind of testing has increased dramatically in the last 2 years even. So we're meeting that challenge, again, with support from Alberta Innovates and from the federal government to really establish those facilities. And then once those are built, the funding, or the work is all industry driven. We're doing very little actual sort of research. It's more trying to address specific problems that the actual operating companies have. So we're self-sustaining based on that work. So it's been a very good investment by the province and by the federal government to develop these systems, and now we're using them and selling the services to Japan, to Europe, and to the USA, where they don't have these same systems. And these are all going to tie into the safety system. And actually, these systems don't work without technologists from NAIT and other institutions as well, because that's been a very handy thing, is we're able to hire local kids that are very skilled in the instrumentation and material sciences that we need to run these really advanced tests. So it's just this whole hub thing is very useful and very effective here in Edmonton.
So it sounds like, as far as the clients or organizations that are working with you, they're not just in Edmonton, they're not just in Canada, they can be all over the world, with probably some mirroring challenges or obstacles that they're trying to ask you to solve with them. And it makes me also kind of notice and wonder, the Canadian Hydrogen Safety Centre, I guess, with that connection, would also have a global impact potentially.
Yeah. And we are already seeing that. Like, I mean, this is again, like, I can give the nuclear industry example. So we have a group called Can Do Owners Group. I think now it's Connexus. So this group was set up by the, jointly by the nuclear regulator and the nuclear stations. And the whole idea is, it's not just for safety, but learning from operational errors and correcting the design and like evolving it as the industry operates. So that is the same example we will be doing in the safety center. So we will be observing and we'll be correcting because there will be, again, if you know the Murphy's Law, so there will be mistakes and events happening. So what we'll do is we'll learn from it, and we will share it with the rest of the industry, and we'll also share it with the rest of the world. So they will learn how to fix it. And we can also work with international project developers, again, to do that, like same thing, forecasting and being prepared. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for adding that. Okay, we have we have time for one more question, and then we're going to move into an audience Q&A. So anybody here in person or anybody online, we welcome you to participate. So this last question is going to be for Agatha. NAIT is helping to build the workforce for this industry. What role does safety training and real-world readiness play in helping Canada lead, not just follow, in hydrogen deployment?
Safety training is super important. So just looking at the theme of our conversation today, there is scaling with confidence. I don't see how we can do it confidently if safety is not a key consideration. There will be no confidence if it's not safe to operate. And so safety is a critical part of the training that we provide to not just the folks who will be operating the power plants or the hydrogen facilities, but even those who will be building it. So from training construction workers to the operators, to the electricians, safety is embedded in that training. And one thing that I've learned just in conversation is that when organizations are looking to invest in a location, the availability of talent is super crucial. Like, they're not going to set up a net zero ethylene cracker facility in a place where they don't have the people who can operate or build those facilities. So NAIT is playing that critical role of making sure that all of the people who are going to be working and building these facilities have the right training when it comes to safety. So it's super critical.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now I'd love to ask anyone in the audience or anybody watching online, if you have any questions for any of our panelists, I'd be happy to help you get that question asked. And we do have some mic runners in the audience.
Hi there. First of all, I wanted to say congratulations on developing the Safety Center. I'm very excited. I just came back from India. I attended India Energy Week, and there's a huge demand for this type of technology. So your center couldn't have opened at a more perfect time. And I think all the learnings from Alberta is something that I would like to take back to other parts of the world, and to get our Canadian technology or Alberta technology out to the rest of the world. So I'm really looking forward to the work that you guys are doing, and thank you.
Thank you so much for the nice comment. Does anybody else here have any questions?
Thank you. I'm just going to piggyback on what Ilona just said just now, so I'm repeating that to you. Well done. Okay, so we are doing some work on ammonia. So obviously we need hydrogen to get to ammonia. So I just wanted to know if there is anything you guys are doing towards making ammonia safe within an environment as well.
Right. So again, ammonia is outside the Hydrogen Safety Center, but we can get involved within the ammonia plant where the hydrogen is handled. So on the ammonia safety itself, there are other organizations available, but the bottom line is, for toxicity, you can't do anything. It is what it is. So yeah, but the safety center is for the hydrogen side. And yeah, because we're also again going to coordinate. So one of the things is the safety center will not reinvent the wheel. So if anybody, like, there are other centers for hydrogen safety, and we will be members there. We will learn from them. So we are basically going to coordinate as much as possible. So which is what is currently missing. People are doing their projects. They're not talking to each other. So we will do that first. And the safety solutions will eventually evolve as the industry grows. So if the industry grows, the safety center grows, because we will be needed throughout its lifetime. So, yeah.
There is the challenge with ammonia isn't so much on the material side, but on the consequence side, as you said, highly toxic, very corrosive. And that's sort of an extension of what we're doing already with natural gas pipelines converting to hydrogen, is looking at the changes not only of the material properties effects, but also at the consequences of releases if they occur. That hydrogen behaves very differently than natural gas. And CO2 is another whole different story, right? Because it's heavier than air, it behaves very differently. Ammonia is sort of third on the list right now. So we've got hydrogen built into these models now. So we've done all the natural gas work, oil risk assessments. We've got hydrogen built into the models now. CO2 is next, and ammonia is the next best thing. So it is coming, and those are certainly considerations, because again, it's quite different. That again, it doesn't seem to be as much of a material probability of failure. Doesn't seem to be as likely, but the consequences of releases could be very different for ammonia. So that's going to be considered. But there are ammonia pipelines. There have been ammonia pipelines in operation. There used to be a cross-country one from from the Gulf Coast up into Michigan, I believe. Operated for many years.
Sorry, Brian.
but
We're just out of time here. However, I know that there's some questions online that we didn't get to. Feel free to keep putting those questions in, and we will do our best to get the answers to you later on. For anybody that did have questions that we didn't get to, hopefully you'll have a chance to catch any of our speakers during our 15-minute break. Feel free to come back in about 15 minutes. We'll have another session at 11:30 called Decarbonizing Mobility in Western Canada, a part of the 5,000 Hydrogen Vehicle Challenge. Until then, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to everyone online.